You spend weeks studying for your first big college exam. Locked in the library, your skin just itching for sun. Minutes become hours, and hours become days. But finally, the big day arrives, and you're so prepared. The teacher even hands out brownies before the test, and you think, yeah, I got this. I'm so ready for this test. Fast forward to me actually taking the test, and there I was, in the corner of the room, eating my brownie and secretly crying because I didn't know how to solve a single question on the exam. That moment was pretty traumatic, but so many tech students experienced something similar. It forced me to acknowledge the existence of the successful stereotype, and I wasn't it. The successful stereotype is what we strive for at this school. It's the expectation that we'll graduate with a 5.0, yes, you heard that correctly, and we will attain multiple offers from top-tier companies. We talk about it so much that I believe we've become numb. What internship were you offered? What grade did you get? Oh, you think your discrete math problem is hard? Look at this nuclear equation I had to do without a calculator. Why do we do this to ourselves? In a school where everyone is brilliant, we're often overshadowed because someone always gets a higher grade, a better internship. A close friend of mine decided not to intern at a company one summer, and instead opted to volunteer in India to empower and teach young girls, a notable endeavor. But often asked about her change in plans, she got tired of responding, knowing that people would say, wow, that's so cool. I wish I could take a summer off and do that. You can. Part of the successful stereotype is we convince ourselves that there's one path, that we get good grades, which leads to good internships, which equals amazing full-time job. This plus that equals success. We're like robots, making our lives an equation. But if you find yourself in the back of the room, eating a brownie and crying, it's probably a wake-up call that you don't have to follow the pack mentality. This summer was a turning point for me. Like many of my friends, I got my first co-op at a good consulting firm. But while I was there, a problem intrigued me. There were these beautiful desk treadmills, but people rarely used them because it's not comfortable to wear business casual clothing and walk on treadmills. So instead, to get exercise, I would find myself dashing home on my lunch breaks to walk my 2 large dogs, and still hated doing it in slacks and a blouse. So I became determined to buy business casual athleisure, something you could go to work in and still look great, but yet still be active in. After hours of searching and only coming across blogs that told you how to wear leggings to work, I intuitively knew that there was market for this. So I spent a few days researching and writing a business plan, and then I applied to CreateX. CreateX is a selective Georgia Tech program that provides $20,000 in seed money and mentorship for students to start their own business. I didn't hear back. But I believed in the idea, and I knew I just had to prove that it was possible to merge athletic and workwear. So I created a few prototypes, reapplied, saying that it was possible, got an interview, wore the designs to the interview, and a week later found out that I was accepted. I could not stop smiling that day. I remember walking by the library, the same place that I studied weeks on end and ultimately failed my first college exam, and thinking, this is the first time I have ever smiled within a 20-foot radius of this building. But then reality hit. I remembered that the second term of my co-op overlapped with CreateX, and I wasn't allowed to pursue both. The successful stereotype, it wanted me to continue on with my co-op rather than pursue my business dream. When I approached my parents with the big news, my dad conservatively suggested that I continue on with a co-op rather than risk it with CreateX. People were subjecting me to their own versions of the successful stereotype. Your whole life, people tell you, do what makes you happy, until you actually do it. An investor spoke with me soon after, and his face lit up when he heard that I was an engineering student at Georgia Tech. But when he found out that my business idea was non-STEM related, he was visibly disappointed. Would I just be letting myself down if I didn't continue on with my co-op? I look up to successful women in STEM, And in fact, because we're so underrepresented in STEM, we're told so many times that it's necessary to follow this path. Only 17% of industrial engineers and 8% of mechanical engineers are women. But in our efforts to attract women to STEM, we've de-emphasized other majors and career paths. It wasn't my lack of interest in CreateX. It was my fear of being categorized as another woman in fashion, even though there's nothing wrong with this. I ultimately decided to go with CreateX. And luckily, the consulting firm let me move my co-op to another semester. But the successful Stereotype was still on my mind. The first day of CreateX, we all had to stand up and present our business idea. I was the last to go. And after hearing about the next data cleaning service, software, or medical device, I began shaking, thinking people would laugh at me for standing up and saying, "Yep, here's an athleisure line." When I began the program, I was afraid to tell people about the apparel company. Because even though this is nothing new, I was still going off the beaten path at Georgia Tech. I'm not coding the next big app or software, and I finally realized that that's okay. I'm still solving problems in the real world. Women go from work to work out, and DOS Duo, my company, optimizes their day by eliminating the need to change after work, providing for a more active lifestyle. That's momentum. Passion comes from solving problems in the real world, not from what major you choose. It's okay to go off the beaten path, even if there's a chance you won't be successful. I don't know, I hope so, but I don't know if DOS Duo will make it. There are thousands upon thousands of companies making clothing, and they can't all be successful. But I knew if I didn't push my co-op and take that chance, then there would never be a good time. Because think about it. In high school, we're just preparing ourselves to get into college. In college, we're just preparing ourselves to get a good job. Once we finally get that good job, we're just preparing ourselves for the next raise and climbing that corporate ladder. There will never be a good time to drop everything. But now, it's easier than ever to stop and break that cycle. What defines success for you? Have you redefined it? If it's engineering, I'm not trying to dissuade you. I'm encouraging you to start thinking differently. Push your boundaries of comfort. Engineering, or whatever your major may be, it's not for everyone. And a 4.0 only gets you so far if nothing in the real world actually interests you. It's okay to dive headfirst into something because you truly believe in your idea. But if you're too afraid to break the chains of what you think makes you successful, then you risk graduating from one of the finest schools, wondering how you could have done it differently. Because you are more than just a successful stereotype. Thank you.